Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today's session is about AI tools for startups. We're going to explore how you can use AI to build your idea faster and smarter. First, it's pleasure to introduce Mr. Rami Farran, a tech transformation professional with over 25 years of experience and a go-to expert in IT strategies and digital innovation. And later on, Ali Sharaf will be joining us as well. He's the Digital Accessibility and Automation Lead at the Office of the Chief of Innovation at AUB. Rami, if you would like to introduce yourself more, the floor is
Sure.
yours.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Maria, and thank you everyone for making time for this kind of mini workshop. My name obviously is Rami Farran, and I work currently at AUB as well. I had digital technologies in education and software, basically. So I had e-learning, development of online courses, multimedia, etc., in addition to software applications at AUB. I have huge experience in software architecture. I started as a developer and moved on all the way to architecture and now onto other businesses. I will start by introducing some concepts, paving the way to for Ali, who will show us how to kind of quickly build and package an application so that you can test your ideas or quickly go to market with an MVP or something like that. I have put a couple of slides just to guide me through the workshop, and I can share the click, Maria.
Yes, you can.
Okay, there you go. Sure. And need slides. Okay, I think this is okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, I'll spend 20 minutes, 25 minutes just explaining different concepts so that whenever you're talking to someone, you at least you know the terminology and some very, very, very basic architecture for how applications work, again, from an extremely high level. I'll try to move as fast as possible so that I can allow a few minutes for questions and answers if someone is curious enough to ask questions. The thing is, the main reason why I'm here is to kind of explain the difference between a web application, website, mobile application, etc. There are a lot of different ways to show your idea, to build your idea. And it's very critical for you to understand all these things so that you can make informed decisions. Now, of course, for people who are technical, my advice, go do something else in the first 20 minutes because this will be extremely boring for you. The borders between different types of applications is becoming extremely vague as we go. Website, web application, mobile application, cross-platform application, hybrid mobile application. The borders are becoming extremely vague between all these. So there is kind of overlapping between different types of stuff. You can build a web application and package it as a mobile application, but you can also start mobile first if from the beginning as a fully mobile application. So where do I start? So hopefully by the end of the next 20 minutes, you will be able to understand what's a website versus a mobile application versus a web application and high-level architectural components and make informed decisions for your MVPs. So a website is primarily an informational, so like the AUB website, other websites that you can see. And I think someone is annotating. A web application is more on the interactive side, transactional side, So it has a backend, it has a database, there is information that's being saved, information that's being posted by users. There's a probably workflow business logic behind it. And the mobile app, of course, it's an application that actually sits and lives on your mobile, as opposed to a web application, it lives somewhere on the cloud. Now, the decision depends on the level of the interaction that you want and the level of intimacy with the user that you want. And I use the word intimacy because this is where you go really to a fully fledged mobile application. So some examples of website are landing pages, your company website. Web applications are things like Gmail, learning management system, web banking. And there are also hybrid, like an e-commerce platform which has a website and is also an application. Now, of course, for mobile applications, it's everything that resides on your mobile. This is a mobile application. Sometimes for the same industry or for the same business, you have a website, a web application, a mobile application, and other components. It depends how really you want to reach your users. For the web application, basically, there's always a front end layer, which is what you see. And then there's a back end layer, which is basically the business logic. This is the server. This is where your business is happening, the if else, the workflows, etc. And there's an API layer that kind of glues the back end to the front end. And there's probably a database, a storage somewhere, and the hosting today is it's cloud hosting. You almost never, especially for startups, you almost never host anything on premises. And the cloud hosting also has different levels of hosting. You can host infrastructure, so you can host virtual servers on the cloud. This is called infrastructure as a service. And you can use a cloud platform services. So you can have your database as a service from the cloud, for example, SQL, Oracle, Postgres, SQL. All these are storage that exist, databases that exist, and you can just use them as is, as opposed to installing your database and hosting it on a virtual server. So from your browser, you access the front end, which basically through the APIs calls the business logic, and the business logic knows how to deal with the database. So these are kind of the main components: a database, a business logic, API layer, and then the front end knows how to talk to the API layer. An API is literally a kind of a remote service that you, from the front end or from the mobile application or even from just from code, you can call this API, and this API will actually request something from your backend. Request, for example, to post an order, request to retrieve some information, to search for some data. The front end layer it's always HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You need to be a little bit familiar with these. HTML it describes what exists on your front end on your page. The CSS, it kind of says how would these components look like, the colors, the fonts, etc. And the JavaScript basically controls the behavior of your front end layer, which is basically, if you click on this button, something disappears, animations, etc. All these are JavaScripts. Now, you rarely write anything directly in JavaScript or HTML or CSS. That's the way we used to do it maybe 15 years back. Today, there are a lot of frameworks that help you build all these, like React, Angular, Vue, etc. And these frameworks work together and eventually produce your HTML, your CSS, and your JavaScript. But also, even now when you want to quickly build something, you don't even use these. You use something else, what we call vibe coding, which is what Ali is going to demonstrate. The backend basically are the business rules, the authentication, the authorizations, the API endpoints. And usually the technology is Java, .NET, Python, Node, JS. These are very famous, the big four, I would say the big four technologies for backend layers. For your database layer, there's always the decision if you want to use SQL versus no SQL. SQL, if when you have really very structured data and you want the structure to be kind of very rigid. You want a class, a students, a set of courses, and the relationship between them. The trend today is if you don't need SQL, don't use it. So use NoSQL. And NoSQL is basically, it just saves entities and the business logic knows how these entities relate to each other. So it's kind of a more agile way of storing your data. Even if your data is transactional, even if your data is actually structured, you can still store it with NoSQL because it's much faster. So you only use SQL if you're really building enterprise systems. APIs, as I said, are the glue that glues everything together, so it connects the front end to the back end. The protocol usually is called REST, so you might hear REST API. It used to be SOAP, SOAP. Now today it's REST. REST is faster, it's lighter, and it's very critical for scaling. We'll see this in the coming slides. The mobile apps are usually either iOS or Android. And also there's the mobile app itself, and there's an API layer, and the mobile app knows how to talk to the API layer, which in turn talk to the back end, and which in turn talks to its database. So your mobile app, which is basically on your phone and not on the browser, and then it talks to the API layer. The API layer calls business logic and backend services, and eventually, it either post something to the database or retrieve something from the database or update or delete something from the database. Mobile apps are, so today the mobile apps are, there's a lot of technologies. The most basic one, or the most, if you want, the old way of doing things, not really old, because today you might still want to do native. Native mobile development is when you literally have two different applications, one for iOS and one for Android, and maybe one for, I don't know, back in the day for BlackBerry, and one for Symbian. So these used to be the big four in the mobile industry. Now it's mainly iOS and Android, which I think covers 90 something percent of all the all the mobile applications, that mobile devices that users have. And building native is really when you need extremely high performance for your application, but it's extremely costly. So because you have to literally build two different applications with very specific technologies and very specific, kits. You maintain two different code bases and you have to do everything yourself. And then comes cross-platform applications, which are basically an application that you build in a specific language, for example, React Native or Flutter. Flutter, there's a language called Dart. You build your application using this language, and then the platform knows how to compile these applications into native. So you have one code base, one application, you're maintaining one, and for example, the Flutter platform will compile two different versions of it, one for iOS and one for Android. And there's a very important type of applications which are extremely and very quickly gaining market share, which are the hybrid applications. Hybrid applications are actually web applications. So if I go back to your web, it's a web application that has everything and packaged. So it's basically HTML, CSS, and JavaScript using, there are many different platforms that you can use. One of them is called PhoneGap, which is the most famous one. So you build your application as a web application. Literally, it's web. So you don't deal with mobile technology, and you package it as a mobile application. There's kind of a wrapper that wraps your web application as a mobile application, because web applications today are extremely smart. The technology is extremely advanced. When to go native, when to go cross-platform. This is basically, you go cross-platform. It's ideal for MVP. And native, you go when you really you need very high performance. So if you have an application that needs to run AI models on the mobile itself, not on the cloud, on the mobile itself. This is where, the advice is to go native. So for example, if you want to have an application that uses vision, the camera for vision and integrated AI, this is kind of a no-brainer to go native. Of course, the cost is high because you'll have to invest a lot in actually building the applications as opposed to cross-platform and hybrid. Um, when do you need a mobile application? It's basically if you want your users to use it, frequently. You don't need push notifications. You need fully offline support, etc. Now, this is a stack template that you might want to remember. So there's a front end, which is يعني, it can be React or other technologies, and then there's back end, which is REST APIs. Database, Postgre is basically open source, so you can use it for free. Cloud hosting, AWS, Azure, and authentication. Usually, Firebase is among the very famous platforms for authentication. Um, however, you really don't want to do all this from day one. So basically, you don't want to build a mobile first application, without first validating your idea. And to validate your idea, you need to have an application. You don't want to over-engineer your MVP. So you really want to start with something that extremely quick to market, very quick to develop, very quick to test, very cheap to fail, and then you scale as you go. So you start simple. Use AI, like we'll see today. Use AI application builders, and you always host it on a managed cloud services. You use vibe coding. Vibe coding, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term, but vibe coding is basically when you test stuff with code, specifically today with generative AI, um, like ChatGPT, like Claude, and like a lot of other platforms, very specialized platforms on the cloud, like Lovable and other platforms, where you can prompt and develop your application. So you receive code. This is vibe coding. The technology became, I think, famous, last year or something like that, where you can produce a lot of code and test the market with it. Go, have your MVP using vibe coding, and I think this is what Ali is going to show us. And then eventually design your APIs very properly and refactor when you want to scale. So you need to be quick to market. The healthiest approach, use vibe coding to explore, to have a very quick application. Develop it within a few days. Change it, test the market, have A/B testing, etc. And then eventually, when you know that this is what you want and that's exactly what the users are liking, then you start transitioning to structured engineering for your production, because this is where you go, front end, back end, API, etc. You document stuff, you prototype with Vibe, and you scale with architecture. Final takeaways: architecture is a business decision, so it's up to you as the a startup founder to say when to use what, but you need to be familiar with different terminologies to make the decision. My advice: don't delegate this decision to a technical guy like me. You do informed decisions, and you tell your team what to do. Unless you as a founder or co-founder is a technical person, then you are the correct person to make these decisions. Build for validation first, and this is very important. And we'll see how to do this today. And eventually separate the front end and the back end early, because this will make it easier for you to build specialized applications for tablets, for mobiles, for desktops, for Macs, etc., using the same back end but having different front ends. So the more you decouple your front end from your back end, the you know the better for you on the long run. And then you scale when needed. And don't build for scaling. Don't prototype for scaling. These are the slides I have for today, and I think it's very good because we can spare some minutes. for your questions. I'm sure that you might have some questions out of curiosity. I went extremely quick in order to allow, to have fruitful discussions or fruitful, answers for your questions, if any.
Okay, if anyone has a question, please introduce yourself, your startup, and you can ask.
You can ask me literally anything that has to do with technology because this is my daily bread.
Okay, Yorgo.
Yorgo.
Hi, Rami. Thank you for
Hi.
the very useful presentation.
Sure.
Uh, my co-founders, Yusuf, Paul, and I our idea is a startup which is essentially Amazon for Lebanon. It's a Me Too concept where we would like to have a nationwide marketplace with quality control and brand control, etc. سؤالي هو إنه how I have two questions actually. How essential do you think a technical co-founder is? No, is it something we can do now and to make these decisions for the architecture and so on and so forth without having the technical knowledge? وتاني سؤال, how much more difficult is it after building a web app to نعمل لها wrapper or so on and make it into a mobile app?
So I'll answer the easier question first, which is the second question. The answer is it is easy. If you have a working web app with built purely with web technology, you can package this as a mobile application using the hybrid. So this is the third way of doing mobile applications. And you can still it's called a bridge between your web app and the mobile wrapper, which you can use in order to do things like sending notifications, accessing the camera, etc., for the mobile application. Now, for the first question, it's not straightforward to answer this question. So it really depends on what exactly you're achieving in this marketplace. So if it's a marketplace that you are kind of in your back office, you're handling all the relationship with the industry, so with retailers or with other shops, then maybe you don't need from day one you don't need or no you always need technical expertise, but maybe you don't need a full-time architect for this. But if you're planning to do something and integrating with, for example, POS systems in different retailers, so it gets more complex and more heterogeneous technologies, this is where I advise you to have at least a part-time architect who can guide you on what exactly to do, what are the components you need to distribute, what do you need to build exactly, and then of course you need to do something to do the actual work by having either full-time or part-time developers.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
And if
Any
you
other?
want, you can connect with Rami on LinkedIn and reach out as well.
Of course, I'm
And
happy to help. If I'm happy to have like 1 hour calls, one-on-ones. I'm totally okay with that.
yeah, we have someone raising his hand, Caesar. And we have people writing in the chat as well.
Good afternoon, Mr. Rami. I hope you're doing great, first of
Hi,
all.
Rami.
Thank you so much for presentation.
Sure.
I have a couple of questions, okay? I would like to hear your feedback.
Mhm.
So basically, I have a company, it's plumbing and water engineering company, okay? The
Mhm.
name is called Sankerji. The
Mm.
whole idea of Sankerji is to book a plumber near your location, okay? So I was thinking to integrate a mobile app in which people book their plumber and electricians on such a mobile app. However, I conducted a survey and feasibility study They informed me from their feedback they like only to conduct it via WhatsApp. However, it will make me much more harder on me. اوكي لاستوعب هذا العدد الكبير من الكلاينتس حيجيني. فالموبايل اب حتسهل علي بس at the same time my client they don't prefer to use the mobile app. So what do you suggest to solve this issue? Thank you.
So yeah, I totally understand that the clients don't prefer to use mobile applications because I think in one of the slides I pointed out that if you go to a fully fledged mobile app if your users will have daily interactions with your application, which is not the case. People will order a sangari or a plumber hopefully مش أكتر من like twice a year or 3-4 times a year. So that's why people would prefer to use something that already exists on their mobile phones, like WhatsApp. However, WhatsApp doesn't really have to be manual. You can actually use there's a platform called SendGrid
Yes.
that you can integrate with and have your business through a WhatsApp channel. You can create your WhatsApp chatbot, and it actually directly places the requests in your back office, and then you can initiate everything there. بالعكس you can scale even more with WhatsApp as opposed to a mobile application because people don't need to install anything on their laptops. The friction is less, I would say.
Exactly. Perfect, Don. Thank you so much, Mr. Rami.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
أكيد. No problem. Osama, you're on mute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You hear me clearly now? Okay.
Yes.
I'm Osama Nimasi. Actually, I'm upcycling acidic way. I'm in the marketing this product. As an early stage validation stage, what is the simplest useful way I can help test customer demand before building anything?
Yeah, I think this is exactly what Ali is going to show us. I think Ali مظبوط. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it will be much more interesting than what I just showed, I think.
That's an interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I think Cesar already you asked contradicting opinions about vibe coding. Yes, I mean it's literally a new concept. I do recommend vibe coding definitely to test the market. That's for sure because there's a good chance that people will not like what you're doing. So with vibe coding, you're not investing a lot, so you're failing quick and cheap. That's how I like to call it. It's something that I heard before. You fail quick and cheap. So yeah, this is to answer Mufaro. حسام was suggesting a WhatsApp chatbot. برافو 100%. التليجرام كمان. Yeah. Okay, that's it. I think we have Andrew. Ali, فينا how يعني can we take a couple of more questions or?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm running the LLM in parallel now.
Okay. هلا ما بعرف Maria, do you want to, because I don't know who's first.
Okay, we can take Andrew, Aisha, and Rami, and then we move to Ali.
Okay.
Okay, Andrew.
Andrew?
Yes. Hello. Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm the one of the founders of Ledgers, and I'm also a technical person. So my question is with regards to vibe coding. Okay, it makes things faster in the beginning, as you said,
Yeah.
but sometimes it doesn't help with. But sometimes it's better to get the architecture from the beginning first. To get it right from the beginning first, so that you don't have to go back after the first version is released and have to change a lot of things. So in some ways it saves time, but if you don't get the architecture properly from the beginning, you will also spend a lot of time in the long run. I have to change everything. And so what's your opinion about the best approach? Because it's good and bad in everything.
So even using vibe coding, you can still scale your application, but you will need a very good technical profile to kind of understand what exactly happened, to understand the different layers, to do some work to separate the layers and to have it ready for scaling. Um, my honest advice is always start with vibe coding. Um, Unless you really know that whatever you're building is exactly what you want and what the users want. And this is where you start from day one with clean architecture. And even with clean architecture, you can still use vibe coding for the different components.
Okay.
I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, to a certain extent you did. So yeah, it's good enough. Thank you.
Okay. Aisha?
Hello, can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes.
Well, so just to give you a brief, our startup Tawasul, it's a platform where we teach interpersonal and communication skills by simulating AI coaching and conversing across different professional scenarios. So we are still at the early stage, and I need your advice regarding the simulation with AI. So we are trying to make the experience more engaging and interactive. However, to build a realistic avatar, it needs like a high computing power and with the limited resources that we have, like in terms of talent, budget, etc. So, in your opinion, from a technical perspective, what could be the alternative?
Honestly, I don't know if I can answer this question, if I'm experienced enough to answer this question, but my advice is to find a service that builds avatars and allows you to use it in your application. I don't think you should invest in the high computing power or to build, for example, an HPC or something like that with high level GPU, because you need a lot of GPUs.
Exactly.
So my advice, don't go there. I don't think the cost will be justified. Best thing to do is to I don't know if there exists a service that that provides you with your avatar. I know there's Synthesia or something like this, but this doesn't. I don't think this provides an interactive avatar. It kind of provides avatars with animations and videos which are pre-built as opposed to live interaction.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot answer this question.
Yeah, we will definitely check it out. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure. We have Asya and Rami, I think. Asya?
Hi, how are you? I'm
Hi, good.
Asya. I'm a co-founder of eClinicare, which is a platform for doctors to manage their patients' visits and everything. So mainly I have multiple questions. First one, can we combine SQL with MongoDB? So for example, some of the data I want to put them in my SQL and others they
Yes.
are not structured. So I should use them as MongoDB because otherwise I will have very null.
This is a very common practice actually. Your data
Okay.
is structured and you want structure, and some data is not. Specifically in your case, a lot of data would be, for example, messages and chatting and these things. So key down, you don't need SQL, but
Yeah.
other data might be very structured, so you need that SQL. But so
Okay.
I'm interested in something that in such application, there's always the question of compliance, medical records, etc., HIPAA compliance and things like that. These
Yes.
are things that you are taking care of, right?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
The second question is how can we structure the application? So, for example, the application is it will be bigger later. Already we have an MVP, but should we chunk, for example, each domain on a separate server in order for later to have for scalability? So, for example, I have an application, a backend that is related to a specific domain and another backend that's specific to another domain.
Yes. Yeah. So the basically the best practice for such cases, because you don't want to scale all your application the same, right? Otherwise,
Yeah.
you'll be paying a lot for scaling and using only specific features. So basically, usually the way it's done is using a concept called microservices.
Yes.
containers and having a platform. The most famous one is called Kubernetes, which
Yes.
basically hosts your microservices, and then you scale specific features together. So microservices are kind of almost very loosely coupled. So you build features that are extremely loosely coupled from other features, and these features are you host them on containers, Dockers, specifically for that, and then you can scale up or scale out these specific containers.
Should I think now to structure the application this way, or should I put them all together and later on I can
يعني
separate them?
the earlier you decouple, the better. لأنه the more you invest, the harder the decoupling will be. So the earlier you decouple, the better.
Okay. So now, for example, I have two backends. One it's specific for the doctor's details, so for the patient's details, and the another
Yes.
is for appointments. This because of this, I have two AWS EC2 servers,
Yes.
and it's costing me, I guess, a lot with respect that I'm just starting with the
Startup.
application.
Yes.
So how can I maybe automate this or decrease the pricing بAWS أو
هلا هون اكيد you'll need an AWS architect يعني to advise you more on EC2. But the AWS has Kubernetes اصلا anyway يعني by default. So my advice is to move there if you're not already there, and to try to decouple the highly used features and services. Maybe the appointments is the most used one. So try to decouple that. You might want to do refactoring, etc., to fully decouple it, have it as a microservice, and scale only that. يعني have everything with less
containers.
specs. Yes, almost everything else with less specs, and only scale that.
Okay. One last question. So right now we are integrating with AI. So we are adding some AI features. Would you recommend using AI, OpenAI APIs, or n8n?
هلا okay, so you're using OpenAI for conversation between patients and bots.
No. So right now I'm doing a small feature which is reading labs test and exporting the data and importing them directly in the application.
As well, we can have a one-on-one يعني to zoom in on this, because the options are there's a lot of options. So I don't want to just throw an answer. As well,
Okay.
we can talk one-on-one for this.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Thank you so much.
Sure. I think we still have Rami. Not sure if we can take Benson as well.
Hello Rami, it's Rami from AUB Mediterraneo. كيفك? All is well?
Good. كتر خير الله. All good.
So I have a couple of questions. My co-founder is not here. He's our computer science professor, but unfortunately he's not here to ask the technical questions.
Okay.
But I have a couple of questions that I know you're a decision maker at AUB in this stuff. Number one, from an institutional perspective, how does migrating data affect a university decision to acquire a new system? So let's say us as a university.
Sorry, Rami, from which perspective? From what perspective?
From data migration.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, from a cost perspective, you mean how does the data migration
affect? From a cost perspective, from an operational perspective, like us at AUB, we decided we want to acquire a new academic system that does X. Then we're now looking for the way they do the data migration. So if the company says you're going to handle data migration, we give you whatever you need, you handle your data migration. Will this affect your decision to acquire such a system, especially for a university as old as AUB and that has all the records and data that is needed. This is number one. Number two, also the integrations between apps. Is this also something that the IT department at AUB does? For example, Banner with Moodle, Banner with another system.
Yes. So the answer to the second question is yes. For example, Zanzibar to Moodle, Banner to Moodle, etc. And the first question, basically, the first question is really depending on the case. Yani, migration paths might not exist by default between two systems. Usually, the best thing to do is to take a business decision. The most convenient decision that you might take is that I don't want to do data migration. I'll keep everything in my old system, and whenever I need data, I extract it as report and I input it in the other system. This is kind of the most convenient decision. Otherwise, you say that, you know what, I'm only interested in my last 2 years data. And then you define, you kind of see what are the really required entities and fields in your new system, and you extract them from your old system. There's a process called ETL, extract, transform, and load, which basically does exactly that. So it extracts from your old system, and then you transform it. So for example, the date of birth might be in specific format in the first system, but the other system needs it in different format. So you transform it into the new format. This is the T, ETL, extract, transform, and then you load it in your system. But again, this is it's very specific to one,
what the
your
application
business
does,
and two, what the applications themselves. Yes,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Okay, we will
regarding
have
the integration between, regarding the integration between apps, so usually the IT department in each university, they do the integration, or you call on each company and let them do the integration between each other
Usually, the two companies will not work
together.
together.
I know that, yeah.
Yeah, it's either your IT department does it,
Okay.
or you hire, an outsourcing company to do it.
Okay.
And usually
Okay.
use the middleware. So in our case, we use OIC, مثلا, or Informatica or something like this to do the integrations.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Rami.
You're
Okay.
most welcome.
Thank you, Rami. We have to move to Ali now because we are short on time. And in the end, if you still had any question and we still had time, you can ask them.
Okay, so thank you, Maria. And hi everyone. My name is Ali Sharaf. I work with IT at AB. I work in digital accessibility, automations, and research related to AI. In today's workshop, we're gonna be talking a bit more about how to use LLMs or how to use tools online in order to produce your MVP. And to start with, there's different types of LLMs. There's a lot of tools you can choose. Each one has its own preference. Today, we're going to be talking about using ChatGPT, OpenAI, Claude Code, and GitHub Copilot for coding as well. And we're going to go over Figma for wireframes. And as Hussam said, yes, Claude Code. It's a preference. It's a preference in chat. The way we can do it is I'm going to try to do things opposite to what Rami did. I'm going to try to do things in the least technical possible way. So if anyone does not come from a technical background, you can do it as well. If you come from a technical background, that's even better. So you know exactly what you're telling the LLM to do. So you can give it a technical description. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. I'm going to try to do things in the least possible technical way. The way I like to do it is make LLMs work in order for other LLMs to do things. In the sense of, I'm going to share my screen to ChatGPT. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the way I did it is I technically told ChatGPT to give me a prompt that I can give for other LLMs. And that's helpful just in case you really don't know or you don't come from a technical background. And the way I did it is I told them that I want two prompts. One is for Figma AI, which is an AI in Figma that builds your whole wireframe. The second is for Claude, which is a more technical prompt, so I can send it to Claude Code and it can generate the code for me. The way it did it is it gave me a full prompt. You can, of course, you can always revise it. You can always make sure that it has what you want. It understands exactly what you want, so you can just copy and paste it. I'm going to show you now the outcome of this. Now, since it's going to take a lot of time, I'm going to share my screen into something that I gave. Share entire screen. I gave Figma AI an already existing prompt. I sent ChatGPT. I told him that I want a system for university to manage room bookings, and it gave me this prompt. All I did was copy, paste, and it did the whole work. So now we're gonna see. We're gonna go over what Figma AI did, and this was done with zero technical knowledge, zero technical background, nothing. All I did was I just gave it a prompt. This is what I want. Give me a prompt so I can put it in Figma, and this is what it did. So a student, it gives you like the whole wireframe, and this is kind of important in case you wanna define your idea, you wanna visualize it in a way that like it's a wireframe. It's no longer just sketches or. So this is something that it built just from the prompt of ChatGPT. I didn't do anything. So that's a small example on using Figma AI. Okay. So we're gonna go now to a different tool, which is to use Versal. Now Versal is good, but I've used it before, but I think the pricing model they used to have changed. So before it was, I think, a monthly subscription. You have certain number of tokens to use or a certain number of credits to use to build the app. And the way Versal works is that you put the prompt in Versal, it starts building the whole app, and it also does the integrations on your behalf. So it integrates for the database with Supabase. It does integrations for the authentication and authorization. This is cool, but at the same time, it's not scalable. If you want to scale what you're building, it's definitely not recommended because you're gonna be dependent on the stuff Versal gives you. I'm gonna drop in chat a website that Versal built, so you can check it at a later time. It's definitely not that recommended to use it because you're gonna be dependent on what it does. Now, I'm gonna share my screen again. Now, to use Claude, you're gonna need to familiarize yourself a bit with something called GitHub. You can check it out. You need to create a GitHub repo. GitHub is like, you can think of it, it's like a container to save your code and share it with others. And also, if you want to connect Claude code to it, you need to create a GitHub repo. So I need to create like a container to put my code in. While we were talking now, I sent to Claude a prompt. I told him your full-time stack. This is exactly what ChatGPT gave. I didn't do anything. It just gave the full stack. It explained what I want, the functionalities, authentication, a sign-up page, sign-in, dashboard, tutor profiles with the following features. Tutor can edit the profile from the dashboard, and this was done now while we are talking. Now, I'm going to show you something else and download it on my device so I can show you what it looks like. Let me start with sharing my screen on this. So this is something that I built with Claude as well. It took me 1 day to build. All I did was I explained to Claude, okay, I want to build the Airbnb for co-working spaces. And it started doing the whole work. I'm going to show you now what it did. So you can select location, time, gives you place. Oh, of course, it crashed. Yeah, that's one of the things that you need to be aware of. Like, it gives you the code, but it's not always the best outcome. So now it's crashing, of course. Let me see my bookings. Okay, list your desk. I can list my own co-working space or my own desk that I want to rent. You can upload pictures. Nice. Now this was all done using Claude. I didn't code anything. All I did was just give it a set of prompts so I can build the app that I want. Okay, you can select it with templates, features. Now the features, I define them. I define the features when sending them to the LLM. So you're kind of defining the features of your product. You give it to the LLM and it builds it on your behalf. It allows you to define spaces of your co-working space, add tasks, features, rotate the areas. Now, the concept of behind this is just to add tasks that allows you to run the place, just to manage like your co-working space. Or if you have a desk that you want to rent it out, you can do it using LLMs as well. Now, this is a web app. If you come from a technical background, it's much easier for you to define. It's much easier for you to define your product, technicalities behind it, and when you send it to the LLM, it gives you kind of exactly what you want or somehow similar to it. You can use Claude, but you need to familiarize yourself. If you're a person with no technical background, you need to familiarize yourself with using a code IDE. I'm gonna drop them now in chat. IDE. Even if you don't come from a technical background, you just need to familiarize yourself. Now, of course, there's tutorials online, as Hossam said, where you can learn how to use tools and how to set up the environment in order to run your code. Now, we just saw a simple example, which was like an Airbnb for co-working spaces. And also like a website just for informative content. Okay, so if you have
VS Code معاك.
yeah, VS Code.
Makes sense.
If you have questions, anything you'd like to ask about, please let me know, and I'm more than ready to help and assist as well. Yes, you can ask.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so hi Ali. Actually, thanks to you, last year I watched the series of these webinars and I learned how to build a prototype on Figma. But I think I'm short on the features or something's wrong with the prompt that I wrote, because I want to use this MVP with people, with users, to validate my idea. So do you have any tips where I can optimize this prototype and know that I can use it and make it as near as possible to the real thing?
Yeah. So the best way to do it is don't keep it just on Figma. The best way to do it is just maybe have a defined scope of what you want. Give it to Claude Code. It will give you the exact features of what you want, and then you can just put it in, you can host it, and that's where you can share it with other people so they can give you feedback. We can if you want, I'll drop you my email. You can send me an email.
Okay.
And we can schedule a one-on-one where we can go over more in depth in this.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Yeah. So the Figma wireframe is just it doesn't meet your need if you want to validate your product, of course. So you need to have something. That's why I think the importance of learning how to use vibe coding tools or how to use like ChatGPT or Claude Code or anything. It's just to create something even with the minimal features in order to validate if that's exactly what they want.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Of course. Juliana?
Hello, Ali. Thank you so much for this advice and for everything you shared with us today. I was wondering, like, I'm someone that's not of technical background. So I'm just like building the idea. I'm just like, it's like I'm in the ideas, just in the idea phase. So what do you recommend is that I complete my idea, then maybe like go to the coding and all these stuff, or I need to be familiar with with the code you told us about, and like just get the idea and try to apply it in parallel with each other. So what's your
Well,
best advice?
I think the best way to do it is to have, well, you need to have a clear definition of what you want from the code. Because if, like, you need to have an idea that, like, this is what I want. This is what I want from the LLM. Because if you don't know exactly what you want, then it's not going to give you anything that's, like, so you need to have an idea and then you can validate it. That's the best way to do it.
Okay, but not in details, maybe just like being a rough, and then
You don't need to have the full features. You need to have the most essential ones.
okay. Okay, got you. Thank you so much.
Of course. So, yeah, Benson.
Hello, Ali. Thank you so much for your presentation and also to the first presenter. So my question comes at a point where I'm considering myself as not an expert in digital technology. So my concern especially comes in because what I'm building currently is trying to bridge the gap between customers and skilled young people who are looking for jobs in households or small and medium enterprises. So we are trying to build this digital platform. So my question mainly is on the partnership. Maybe as I was considering that I might not have this expertise, but some of my friends might have this expertise in digital technology, application development and stuff. So from your experience, how have you worked with your partners, or how do you advise me to work with such partners in development of the platform and everything that goes on? Thank you.
Well, of course, if you have a technical co-founder, that makes life much easier. There's much less to worry about because even if you learned how to use the like the LLMs, or like how you learned how to use Cloud Code and you learned how to do everything, there's always gonna be a certain part where that's like it's missing because it can, like, the architecture, building, defining the features. Rami was talking about authorization and authentication, but there's also something called authorization. There's always going to be something, like, if you don't have a minimal technical know-how, not like, even if you try to use the Cloud Code or any other tool, it's not going to be the best. Maybe it's going to give you the main important features, but there's always going to be something missing, and that's why it's important to have a technical co-founder, especially if your tool is in technology, or like you're building something that's a software or an application.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. So, if there's any other questions, yes.
Yes, actually. Actually, my product is not technical. So, with so many AI tools available, how do you decide which task is actually worth using AI versus doing it manually? It means, what to decide when to use AI?
Well, since we're talking about now building the thing, like building your own technical project or like your own website or application, or if you know how to do it, then you don't need to use AI. But of course, there's a certain way of using AI. Like, you can't use it for everything, but at the same time, you need to know. I think Hossam best said this best thing in chat, which is experience. Like, you need to have a certain experience in when to use it and what for. But of course, if you're building like your prototype or like your MVP, and you don't come from a technical background, then obviously you need to use the tools.
So we need to ask somebody experienced to have it, if it's manual or AI, to guide us more or less.
Well, if the concept behind this session is to go over some of the tools and to have a minimal technical know-how, so you can build your own MVP by the end of the sprint. I think there is a lot of tools. I think there's a lot. Rami went over like the technical part. I think if you just go over a couple of tutorials online, you can build your own MVP. If it's like a website, web application with the minimal functionalities. You don't need to have a full web application by the end.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Rami. I hope you enjoyed the session. You can also reach out to them if you would like to ask more questions, and I will be sharing the recording with you after we end this meeting. And have a nice day. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Hussam.
Thank you.